At 27 years old, I thought I had my life figured out, or at least I was on the right track. I was in a nearly 3-year-long relationship with Kay, the woman I believed was the love of my life. We shared a cozy apartment in the heart of downtown. I worked grueling hours as a software developer at a fast-paced startup. It wasn't easy, but the paycheck and the promise of a better future made it worthwhile. Kay, on the other hand, was balancing her part-time waitressing job with finishing her degree. Life was busy, but it felt like we were a team. Sure, there were arguments now and then, but what couple doesn't have their spats? Nothing about our relationship raised any red flags, at least not until last Tuesday. That day, fate seemed to hand me a rare break. My boss canceled a late meeting, and I found myself clocking out earlier than usual. Excited by the unexpected free time, I decided to surprise Kay. I picked up her favorite takeout and envisioned a quiet evening together. Maybe a movie, some laughter, and a much-needed respite from the stress we were both under. As I parked outside our building, a flicker of excitement coursed through me. It had been a while since I'd done something spontaneous for her, and I hoped it would remind her, and maybe even myself, how solid we were as a couple. But as I climbed the stairs to our apartment, something felt off. The door was slightly ajar. My heart gave a jolt, first with confusion, then with unease. Why was the door open? I walked inside cautiously, the takeout bags rustling in my trembling hands. And that's when I heard it. Her voice. Kay's voice, warm and familiar, but the words she spoke sent icy tendrils creeping through my veins. She wasn't alone. There was a man's voice, low and casual, mingling with hers. At first, I told myself it must be innocent. Maybe a friend helping her with schoolwork or someone stopping by to drop something off. But then I heard her say it. "Yeah, he has no idea," she laughed. "He works all the time, so he doesn't even notice when I'm out with you. Honestly, I've got him wrapped around my finger. Even if he did find out, I could just talk my way out of it." The words hit me like a blow to the chest. My mind raced, trying to rationalize. Surely I misunderstood. Surely this wasn't what it sounded like. But then the man chuckled. I heard the clink of a glass, the careless ease in his voice. "It's almost sad how easy it's been," she continued, her tone dripping with mockery. "The best part is, he actually believes I'm stressed about school. That's why I've been distant. It's pathetic." I couldn't breathe. The world around me blurred as her words replayed in my head, each syllable sharper than the last. This wasn't the woman I thought I knew. This wasn't the person I had poured my heart and soul into. For a moment, I stood frozen in the hallway, anger and disbelief battling for dominance. I wanted to barge in, to scream, to demand answers. But then I realized, what was the point? Nothing I could say or do would erase the betrayal or the cruel way she mocked me. So I turned and left. I slipped out as silently as I had entered, my heart pounding like a war drum. By the time I reached my car, I was shaking. My hands clenched the steering wheel so tightly I thought it might snap. I drove without a destination, the city lights blurring through my tears. That night I didn't go home. Instead, I crashed at a friend's place. Someone Kay didn't know. I didn't say much, just stared at the ceiling, replaying the scene in my mind. Every laugh, every mocking word, felt like a knife twisting deeper into my chest. The next morning I made my decision. I blocked her on everything. Phone, social media, email. I didn't want her excuses, her lies, or her manipulations. I didn't even tell her why I left. Let her sit with the same shock and confusion she'd inflicted on me. In the days that followed, the fallout was immediate and relentless. My phone buzzed incessantly with her calls and texts, each message a frantic mix of apologies and pleas. She even showed up at my office, desperate to talk. But how do you confront someone who betrayed you so thoroughly and then had the audacity to laugh about it? It wasn't just the infidelity that shattered me. It was the sheer cruelty of it. The way she had mocked my trust, my love, my very being. A week later, I found out who the other man was. He wasn't a stranger. He was a coworker. The revelation hit me like a second betrayal. The man who had been laughing in my living room, drinking my beer, mocking me. He worked in the same office as me. I had probably passed him in the hallway, exchanged pleasantries, maybe even laughed at a joke he told. And all the while he was part of this twisted game. But it got worse. He had a girlfriend too. It was as if we were all pawns in some cruel game they were playing, oblivious to the pain they were causing. For a moment I fantasized about confronting him at work, about exposing him and Kay in front of everyone. But then I realized something: they weren't worth it. Neither of them deserved another ounce of my energy, my time, or my anger. So I walked away, not just from them but from the life I thought I had. It's been a long, hard road since that night, but I'm learning to pick up the pieces, to rebuild, to trust again. And one thing's for certain: I won't let their betrayal define me. They may have broken my heart, but they won't break me. At 27, I thought my life was on solid ground. I was in a committed 3-year-long relationship with Kay, the woman I believed was my forever. We shared a small, cozy apartment in the heart of downtown, a place filled with memories of laughter, quiet evenings, and dreams for the future. I worked as a software developer for a demanding startup, pouring countless hours into my career. The job was intense, but the paycheck and the promise of stability made it worthwhile. Kay, meanwhile, was balancing her part-time waitressing job with finishing her degree. Her ambitions keeping her busy just like mine kept me. We were both stretched thin, yet I believed we were a team, facing life's hurdles together. Sure, we had our share of arguments. What couple doesn't? But I never once questioned her loyalty or the foundation of our relationship. That illusion shattered one fateful Tuesday evening. That day, the universe granted me a rare reprieve. My boss canceled a late meeting, and I left work earlier than usual. Seizing the moment, I decided to surprise Kay. I stopped by her favorite takeout spot, excited by the thought of an unplanned evening together, a break from the stress of work and school. I imagined us eating, talking, and maybe even watching a movie. As I parked outside our building, a flicker of excitement surged through me. It had been a while since I'd done something spontaneous for her, and I hoped this small gesture would reignite the spark between us. But as I climbed the stairs, takeout bags in hand, something felt off. The door to our apartment was ajar. My heart skipped a beat, then began hammering in my chest. I froze for a moment, debating whether to call out or just step inside. Quietly, I entered, my senses on high alert. Voices carried down the short hallway, one of them unmistakably Kay's. She was talking to someone, a man. First, I tried to rationalize it. Maybe it was a friend, someone helping her with school. But then I heard her laugh, the sound sharp and cutting. "Yeah, he has no idea," she said, her tone dripping with amusement. "He works all the time, so he doesn't even notice when I'm out with you. Honestly, I've got him wrapped around my finger. Even if he did find out, I could just talk my way out of it." My blood ran cold. The man chuckled in response, his voice casual and relaxed. "Well, as long as it works for us, who cares? He'll never figure it out." I couldn't breathe. Her words were a dagger, twisting with every syllable. My mind screamed at me to do something, anything. Confront her. Burst into the room. Demand answers. But I stood frozen, rooted to the spot, listening to her mock me like I was some clueless fool. "It's almost sad how easy it's been," she continued. "The best part is, he actually believes I'm stressed about school. That's why I've been distant. It's pathetic." I don't know how long I stood there, but eventually I backed away. Quietly, I left the apartment, careful not to make a sound. I walked to my car in a daze, my heart pounding so hard I could feel it in my ears. That night I didn't go home. Couldn't. I ended up at a friend's place, someone Kay didn't know, and crashed on his couch. I didn't say much, just stared at the ceiling, my mind replaying everything I'd heard. The betrayal wasn't just a knife in my back. It was a wrecking ball that demolished the life I thought we'd built together. The next day I made a decision. I would cut her out completely. No explanations. No second chances. No room for manipulation. I blocked her on everything. Phone, social media, email. I wanted to erase her from my life. The fallout was immediate. Kay called incessantly. My phone buzzed with texts, each one a mix of confusion, apologies, and desperate pleas. Mutual friends began reaching out, saying she was in a panic, crying and begging to talk to me. She even showed up at my office once, but I refused to see her. A few days later, she found out where I was staying. She showed up at my friend's apartment, pounding on the door, her voice cracking as she begged me to let her in. My friend turned to me, unsure of what to do. After a moment of thought, I told him to let her in. When she walked through the door, she looked like a shadow of herself. Mascara streaked down her cheeks, her eyes red and swollen, hands trembling. She started talking immediately, her voice frantic and broken. "It was a mistake," she said. I was confused. "He didn't mean anything to me. It was just a moment of weakness. Please, you have to believe me." But as she rambled, I realized something. She wasn't sorry for what she'd done. She was sorry she got caught. Her words weren't about remorse. They were about damage control, an attempt to rewrite the narrative and make me doubt the truth I had witnessed. Finally, I stopped her. "I heard everything," I said, my voice calm and steady. "I was there that night. You didn't know, but I was there, listening to you laugh about me." Her face went pale. For a moment I thought she might collapse. She stammered, trying to find words, but there was nothing left to say. I stood, walked to the door, and opened it. "We're done," I said, my tone cold and final. She tried to rush toward me, panic flashing across her face, but my friend stepped in, blocking her path. She collapsed in the hallway, sobbing, begging, promising she'd change. But I felt nothing. Not anger. Not pity. Not love. I walked away, leaving her crying in the hallway, and didn't look back. In the days that followed, I began to rebuild. I stayed at my job, refusing to let her betrayal uproot my life. Eventually, I reported the other man to HR. The fallout was swift. His girlfriend found out, and by the end of the week, he was gone. It hurt, deep, soul-crushing pain, but it also felt like a weight had been lifted. I wasn't living in her lies anymore. I was free. Healing wasn't easy, but it came. Slowly, I began to see the cracks in our relationship I had ignored for too long. I had blinded myself to red flags because I wanted so badly to believe in us. Now I know better. I know my worth. I know what I deserve. Kay and that chapter of my life are behind me, and though I may never forgive her, I've let go of the pain. I've moved forward stronger and wiser than before.